From planets with glass rain and oceans of lava, to worlds with 3 suns and giant diamonds, our universe is full of surprises. Sometimes we find celestial bodies that shouldn't even exist at all. But despite all logical reasoning, they live and thrive. In 2023, we discovered another impossible planet, TOI 5295b. Once again, our universe turns out to be much more complicated than we thought, and this isn't the only strange planet that we've discovered in recent years. So, let's take a look at a couple of these impossible planets. TOI 5205b is the first one on the list. This is an unusually large planet orbiting a small star. It's located about 280 light-years from Earth. It's quadrillions of miles, but on a cosmic scale, it's pretty close. This planet was discovered just recently, in 2023. So why is it so special? Because it doesn't follow the rules of planetary formation, like other planets in its neighborhood. TOI 5205b is a bit of a rebel because it orbits a tiny red dwarf star that's only 4 times larger than Jupiter. What's so weird about it, you ask? Well, you see, a red dwarf is basically like the runt of the litter in the world of stars. This type of star is rather cold, about 2 times colder than the Sun. They have a reddish tint, hence the name. And yep, stars work quite strangely. The closer they are to red, the colder they are, and the closer to blue, the hotter they are. Hey, I don't make the rules. Anyway, because of all this, they aren't very bright. So without a good telescope, you won't see them in the sky. But they aren't just some space losers. They're the most common stars in the universe. They also live much longer than our Sun, and thanks to this, they usually have a bunch of different planets orbiting them, including those similar to our Earth. So if one day we decide to find a new home, it may well be near some red dwarf. But here's the catch with TOI 5205b. It's a gas giant. Gas giants like, for example, Jupiter or Saturn, are the behemoths of the universe. These planets are mainly made up of gases like hydrogen and helium. They don't have a solid surface like Earth or Mars, so you can't exactly land on them without getting crushed by the immense pressure. And they're not called giants for nothing. They're absolutely massive. In fact, if you took all the other planets in our solar system and squished them together, they still wouldn't be as big as Jupiter. In other words, they're the gassy wrestlers of the planetary family. So, how is it possible that such a huge planet orbits such a small, weak star? Red dwarfs are usually considered too small to host gas giants. Moreover, it's physically impossible. Or at least, so we thought. But TOI 5205b had other plans and decided to form near a red dwarf anyway. It's like a small pea orbiting around a lemon, which doesn't sound that bad until you remember that Jupiter next to our Sun is like a pea next to a basketball. Only really big stars are able to keep such big planets nearby. This had astronomers scratching their heads as it went against everything they thought they knew about planet formation. And while we try to figure out how TOI 5205b managed to break the rules, the planet itself seems pretty content to blaze its path through the cosmos. And it isn't the only one. In recent years, scientists have discovered a bunch of such forbidden planets. So let's check out the other ones. For example, TOI 3757b, a giant planet with the density of a marshmallow. Imagine a giant planet that's so soft and fluffy it's like a marshmallow floating in space. That's right, TOI 3757b is a gas giant that's been dubbed the Marshmallow Planet because of its incredibly low density. Of course, it's not edible and cute like real marshmallows, but it would still be fun to touch it. This planet was discovered in 2022. It's located in the constellation of Auriga the Charioteer, 591 light-years from us. Just like the previous one, it's also orbiting around a red dwarf star. And get this, TOI 3757b only takes around 3 days to complete one orbit. Imagine having a birthday every 3 days. It's also incredibly close to its star, just some 3.5 million miles away. For comparison, the distance between the Sun and the planet closest to it, Mercury, is about 36 million miles. So TOI 3757b is like right on top of its star. Let's hope this marshmallow planet doesn't get too toasted. Now let's talk about how this planet was discovered. It was spotted by the Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite, or TESS, a space detective on the hunt for new planets. The transit detection method is when scientists use the star's light to find their planets. When the planet passes through the star, it blocks a tiny portion of the star's light, making it look a little dimmer for a while. Scientists can detect this dip in brightness using special instruments. If the dip happens regularly, they can tell that there's a planet orbiting the star. The size of the dip in brightness tells scientists how big the planet is and how close it is to the star. If the dip is really small, that means the planet is probably pretty small too. And if the dip happens more frequently, that means the planet is probably closer to the star. And this is how we discovered our marshmallow planet and many other ones. Overall, TOI 3757b is a fascinating planet that's captured our imaginations with its unique properties. Now, let's move on to the next mysterious celestial body. TYC 8998-760-1b, on the border of a planet and a star. Whew, that was a mouthful. Let me introduce you to a planet whose name I won't repeat. Well, this baby is also a gas giant. But not just any gas giant. In fact, it's so big, it could make Jupiter feel like a tiny pebble in comparison. I mean, it's 14 times the mass of Jupiter and 3 times as big around. Isn't that impressive? It orbits a very young, sun-like star 300 light-years away. This star is only 17 million years old, and yes, it's considered a baby among the stars. For comparison, our own Sun is about 4.5 billion years old. But the star itself isn't that interesting. The planet, on the other hand, is a bit of a weirdo. You see, planets just can't be that big. With its enormous mass, it should be a star. It's kind of like the Caspian Sea, which is considered the largest lake in the world. Just as the Caspian Sea isn't really a sea or a lake, this planet is the middle child of the universe. Not quite a star, but not exactly a planet either. Some scientists think that it might be a failed star, which is like saying a cake that didn't rise properly. And let's talk about its temperature. You know how you feel like a baked potato when it's 90 degrees Fahrenheit outside? Well, this planet laughs at us. Its estimated surface temperature is a whopping 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit. That's hotter than a jalapeno popper straight out of the fryer. This time, the planet was discovered by the imaging detection method. You see, capturing pictures of exoplanets is no easy feat. The star is always way brighter and ruins the pic. It's like trying to take a selfie with your crush while your annoying little sibling is jumping up and down in front of you. But scientists have a solution. They use some specialized optics and clever observation methods, like coronography. They basically block out the light of a star so that we can see the planet more clearly. Magic, right? And that's how they discovered this not-a-star planet too. And now it's giving scientists a lot to think about. It makes us question what we know about the formation of planets. Let's hope we'll find out more about it in the future. It's amazing to think about the weird and wacky things that exist in our universe, and these planets definitely fit the bill. Who knows what else is out there waiting to be discovered? Maybe someday we'll find a planet that's even more impossible than the ones we just discussed. Until then, keep your eyes on the skies and your mind open to the infinite possibilities of our universe.
Let's see, there's Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Phaeton, Jupiter. Wait, hold on. What Phaeton am I talking about? Well, let's see. It was the beginning of the 19th century, and the asteroid belt hadn't been discovered yet. In the year 1801, one man named Giuseppe Piazzi spotted the largest asteroid in the solar system, Ceres. At that time, people believed that there was a planet orbiting between Mars and Jupiter, and Ceres seemed to fit the bill. But the next year, another astronomer, Heinrich Olbers, found one more space body following a similar orbit. It was an asteroid which was later called Pallas. This discovery helped Olbers to figure out that these two space objects could be fragments of a planet. The discovery of two more asteroids, Vesta and Juno, seemed to confirm this theory. It was believed that the planet, which was named Phaeton in the 20th century, appeared in the early days of the solar system and was later destroyed, and its debris formed the asteroid belt. Olbers' idea was called the disruption theory. To astronomers at that time, it seemed obvious that the planet once collided with a large space object, which led to its demise. The most likely candidate was Nemesis, a hypothetical red or brown dwarf orbiting our Sun. Another theory claimed that Phaeton could have gone through an internal cataclysm, which could have broken the planet into pieces. There was one more idea. Phaeton could have come too close to Jupiter and got torn apart by the gas giant's immense gravity. These days, though, astronomers don't believe in the disruption theory anymore. A new idea has replaced it. It's known as the accretion theory. It claims that the asteroid belt is all that is left of the protoplanetary disk. Supposedly, this disk had been originally orbiting the Sun, even before the planets formed. Unfortunately, because of Jupiter's gravitational forces, it never managed to coalesce into a planet. But what is this asteroid belt we keep talking about? This region is located between the orbits of Jupiter and Mars. Tons of asteroids and even minor planets are found there. Some of them can sometimes migrate or even get thrown out of the asteroid belt to the outer solar system. The four largest asteroids in that area are Ceres, Vesta, Pallas, and Hygeia. They make up half the mass of the entire belt. As for the rest of the mass, countless smaller bodies make up for it. In loads of sci-fi movies about space, the main character gets into an asteroid belt and has to try hard to get away from countless rocks threatening to smash their spacecraft. Well, it has nothing to do with the real thing. Even though there are thousands of asteroids in this region, they're so widely spaced that the chance of collision is next to nothing. Hey, but it's a movie, right? Anyway, when the asteroid belt was forming, some objects started to come together and form what we know as protoplanets. But the gravitational pull that was caused by the formation of Jupiter made such collisions too rough, and instead of forming large space bodies like planets, asteroids shuddered. Astronomers think that as a result of such collisions, more than 99.99% of the original mass of the asteroid belt was lost in the first 100 million years of the history of the solar system. Only the largest asteroids have enough gravity to get a spherical shape. Small ones are just often piles of rubble, loosely held together by gravity. And the tiniest objects in the asteroid belt resemble dust, so small they are. And all these objects, giant and tiny, orbit the Sun. There are several types of asteroids, depending on their composition and albedo, which is the proportion of light or radiation reflected by a surface. The main types are carbon asteroids, which have a very dark surface, silicon ones, you can also call them stone asteroids, and metal ones. The first two types account for around 75% and 17% of asteroids that we know about. For the first time, the asteroid belt was crossed by a spacecraft in 1972. It was the Pioneer 10 space probe. The spaceship managed to refute the theory that the belt was filled with dust that could easily damage all gadgets on board. It didn't happen. And since that time, 8 more probes have traveled through the asteroid belt. And now, I'm going to tell you some cool facts about the solar system itself. Try to count how many of these facts you've known before and write your answer down in the comments below. The solar system is a staggering 4.5 billion years old. Scientists came to this conclusion after studying meteorites, the oldest material they managed to find. But our solar system isn't the only one in the Milky Way galaxy. The galaxy we live in houses about 100 billion star systems. And if it's just our galaxy alone, what can we say about the whole universe? Now, our Sun is also insanely massive. Here's the proof. 99.86% of all the mass of the solar system is the mass of the Sun, in particular hydrogen and helium that it's made of. The remaining 0.14% is mostly the mass of the solar system's 8 planets. Oh, by the way, contrary to popular misconception, outer space isn't a perfect vacuum. It contains not only stars and planets, but also clouds of interstellar dust, space plasma, and cosmic rays. Those are atom fragments dashing from the outskirts of the solar system. Now, one phenomenon astronauts should worry about while exploring space is cold welding. If two pieces of the same kind of metal touch in space, they bond and get permanently stuck together, kind of like galaxy glue. It doesn't happen on Earth since water and air keep pieces separate. You can see solar eclipses even though the Moon is 400 times smaller than the Sun. It's also 400 times closer to Earth, so it's perfectly capable of obscuring the star. But in 600 million years, the Moon won't be able to block the Sun completely because of the satellite's changing orbit. Behind the orbit of Neptune, there is the mysterious Kuiper Belt, filled with massy icy objects. The most curious thing about this space formation, though, is that the scientists fail to explain the pattern of its movement. The only explanation they have is that Neptune might be hiding a ginormous planet. This hypothetical planet has already got the name Planet 9, and all we have to do is wait until its existence is confirmed, or not. The ocean on Jupiter is larger than any body of water on other planets of the solar system. But it's not the ocean you think about. The one on Jupiter isn't made of water. This mesmerizing thing consists of metallic hydrogen, and its depth is around 25,000 miles, which is actually almost the same as the circumference of Earth. Now, people got to know about beautiful Saturn's rings in the 1600s, but now we know that Saturn isn't the only ringed planet. All the giant gas planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Jupiter, have rings of their own, but they're thin and almost impossible to see. As for Mars, Venus, and Earth, they're made of rocky material and have no rings. At the same time, Saturn's moon Rhea might have a ring system consisting of 3 narrow bands. If astronomers manage to confirm it, it'll be the first time for people to discover rings around a moon. Oh, and Mars might get a set of rings of its own in the next 70 million years. The red planet's largest moon, called Phobos, is orbiting closer and closer to the planet. One day it's likely to get broken apart by the gravitational pull of the red planet and turn into a ring that can last for millions of years. And another cool fact about Mars. You've probably heard of methane gas, a byproduct of such natural processes as volcanic activity and cow emissions. Anyways, this gas is not only a part of the Martian atmosphere, but also the thing that confuses astronomers to no end. The thing is that the volume of methane on Mars keeps wavering, and scientists just can't figure out where it might be coming from. Can there be life on Mars? Can there be cows on Mars? Perhaps we've all stopped to think at one point about what it would be like to live on another planet. I know I've had days like that. Gotta get away. And maybe even interact with other types of creatures that already live somewhere else in space. These days, such ideas sound more like something from a science fiction book. But in the future, permanently changing your address to another planet might turn out to be mandatory. Think of the stars in our solar system as a battery. Billions of years from now, its energy will be gone. Without its light and warmth, life on Earth can't exist. When you think about it this way, we have to hope that future humans will have found some other place to live by then. Thankfully, there's good news. Recently, scientists at NASA have announced that they have found a new planet that might be able to support life. They call it TOI 700e. E is roughly the same size as Earth, and it's located in a region of space where scientists think water could exist in its liquid form, which is crucial for the development of life. This planet is not the only one, though. Close to it, there's another promising planet which they call TOI 700d, but this one is further away from its star. Because of the distance from the main source of light, Planet D lies in a special area called the conservative habitable zone. In simple terms, scientists aren't sure whether life might exist on this one, but they don't exclude such a possibility. Planet E is in the optimistic zone, which means that it's possible that it has water and even an atmosphere. Hey, at least we have some options. The two planets are in a solar system that's only 100 light-years away from Earth, which is considered pretty close in space terms. NASA found these planets by watching the light from the star and measuring how it moves when a planet passes in front of the star. This is the first time that NASA has found a solar system with multiple planets that could have life. So far, scientists have found over 5,000 exoplanets, and they think there could be at least 10,000 more. Specialists at NASA are looking into the ways to figure out if any of these planets could harbor life. But they also say we might find forms of life we don't expect to see, and that we should be open to other possibilities. That's because we only know about what life can be by looking at our own planet. Sure, everything sounds enticing so far, but don't pack your bags just yet. As appealing as these new planets might sound, there's still one problem: getting there. Scientists have been researching for decades how people can stay in space and thrive for long periods of time. And history tells us it's no easy project. Back in 1962, John Glenn became the first American to orbit our planet. To circle Earth a mere 3 times, he had to go through months of technical and physical preparations. These days, advanced technologies help us investigate Mars better, and scientists have figured out that there is water and materials on the red planet that may be useful to people. It has sparked the idea of sending people to Mars to live there, just to begin with. The first manned Mars mission is scheduled for the late 2030s or early 2040s, if everything goes well. The plan is for this to be a round trip, but even if NASA manages to plan everything well, the round-trip journey will still take about 500 days. It all depends on Mars and Earth's positions in their orbits around the Sun. One of the biggest problems with living on Mars is gravity. For starters, the astronauts will arrive at the red planet after months of living in microgravity. It means it could take them a lot of time to physically get in shape before they could start exploring. That's because living in microgravity conditions heavily affects the human body. It might mean loss of bone and muscle mass, as well as a shift in the normal movement of body fluids, which tend to go upward. This can lead to pressure on the eyes and even problems with people's eyesight. But Mars is right here, in our own solar system. What about planets that are light years away? The answer is still up for debate. It may sound cool to travel really fast, like at the speed of light. So far, scientists believe it's not possible. Sure, we may have been able to create airplanes that travel faster than sound, supersonic aircraft, but it's not the same. There's quite a difference, actually. Light is about 1 million times faster than sound. Traveling at the speed of light would mean we could go from Earth to the Moon in 1 second, or from Los Angeles to New York in less than the blink of an eye. But what stops us, though? Some say it's energy. It may be possible to make something go really fast, but it'll take a whole lot of energy. In this case, engineers will need to find new ways to make things move in space. Right now, rockets use fuel that is similar to the gasoline you use in your car. But that's not very efficient when it comes to space travel. Other ways to push a spacecraft include using electric or magnetic forces. One promising idea is using a solar sail, which is like a large thin sheet of plastic that can be pushed through space by sunlight. Some spacecraft have already used solar sails, and scientists think they could go up to about 10% of the speed of light. If other planets in our solar system turn out to be inhospitable, and we can't invent spaceships that move fast enough, we might still have a choice. Secret Option C. It was first proposed by a scientist who wrote an interesting study about a special type of planet. It suggests that we might not need spaceships to move around and escape problems on our own planet. We could use planets that are not orbiting a star. They're called rogue planets. Ooh. Instead of gravitating toward a star, these lonesome space objects simply drift alone through space, doing their own thing. Think about it this way. Moving to Mars is like moving to an already furnished house. Regardless of how nice it would be, you would still have to adapt to it. You'd have to get used to how much light gets in through the windows every day, and to climbing up and down the stairs to get to the living room. Moving to a rogue planet means we'd start from scratch, building our own house from the ground up, perfectly adapted to our needs. Free-floating planets are usually seen as cold, dark, and not suitable for life. But if they have underground resources, they can be useful. They offer a constant surface gravity, a lot of space, and resources. They can also provide water and protection from space radiation. If we become an advanced enough civilization, we might be able to control the planet and even create new types of energy. So the next question would be where we could find such a rogue planet. It's hard to know how many of these there are in the universe, but scientists have found a bunch of them in one region of the Milky Way galaxy. Some rogue planets have been kicked out of their own solar systems because they were bad. No, not really. It was because of gravity, while others might have formed on their own. Either way, we don't want rogue planets to get too close either, at least not in the near future. The chances of a rogue planet entering our solar system are extremely low. But if it did, it could mess things up for us. Depending on its size, a rogue space object might divert other planets off of their course around the Sun, which could alter their exposure to light and warmth. And if it crashes into the Earth, well then that would be a bad thing too. The Hubble telescope orbits our planet, looking out at the big unknown universe. Since it's out of our atmosphere, the Hubble can see way further than telescopes on land. No clouds up there. This guy helped us confirm the theory about supermassive black holes in the center of galaxies. It also discovered a whole bunch of new galaxies, including the world's oldest one, which is about 8 billion years older than our own. But let's travel 25 light-years away to another special star, Fomalhaut. It's one of the brightest stars in the night sky, and it's in the constellation Southern Fish. It's almost twice as big and heavy as the Sun. If you look at it from far away, you can see a bright yellow disk around it. It's a debris disk full of bits of space rock, and it's huge. Its width is about 25 times the distance from the Earth to the Sun. Scientists were curious about it. Was all this space dust going to get smushed together and become a planet one day? But then they saw something else. Right there, through all that debris, was a massive, mysterious object. A large yellow dot orbiting the star. It looked like it was skating around a cosmic ice rink. So, in 2008, scientists announced they had discovered an exoplanet called Fomalhaut b. It was the first planet outside of our solar system that we could actually see with our own eyes. It's hard to know how heavy it is, probably like a couple of Marses put together, and it lives pretty far from its host star, about 4 times the distance from the Sun to Neptune. 1 year on the planet would be the same as 1,700 Earth years. We'd all be babies over there. So, one question. Does the planet even really exist? Scientists sat around arguing about it. Then, in 2012, the trusty Hubble telescope came up with some new data. It was real all along. If it was a gas giant like Jupiter or Saturn, that would make it incredibly young, 10 times younger than Earth. And all that dust around it seems to shine nonstop. You'd have to wear sunglasses 24/7. But now, it's disappeared again. Nothing but a donut of debris. So, maybe it was destroyed by a giant asteroid, like the one that wiped the dinosaurs off the face of the Earth. Or it may have been crushed by a rogue planet. These are planets that fly around the galaxy without a clear orbit. Maybe the dust is all that's left from a head-on collision. Or maybe something went crazy in the planet's core, and it exploded from within. Scientists now believe that Fomalhaut b was never actually a planet in the first place. It was just the leftovers of two big rocks smashing together. From far away, that kind of massive collision would actually just look like a yellow dot. These two colliding space rocks must have been at least 125 miles wide. That's like DC to Philadelphia wide. But this isn't the first time a planet's just up and disappeared from view. Scientists thought they'd found an Earth-sized planet orbiting our neighbor, Alpha Centauri. They called it Alpha Centauri BB, not exactly flashy. Plus, in the end, it turned out it didn't exist. Oops. Scientists make mistakes, just like the rest of us. Not long ago, they thought there might be life on Venus. They found traces of a special gas, phosphine, which can be a sign of life. It was the top story for a month. But then, someone decided to double-check the data. There was some phosphine floating around, but not nearly as much as they thought. Travel back in time a couple of hundred years, and you can find even sillier mistakes. Back then, people believed that the sun revolved around the Earth, and that our planet was the center of the whole universe. That's because they didn't have fancy equipment to measure stuff. People saw the sun rise in the east and set in the west. That was enough to say that the sun revolved around us. So, what happened to that planet? Basically, the Hubble took a photo of the whole star system, but since it's so far away, the photo came out kind of blurry. Scientists just saw a large yellow dot and assumed it was a planet. Scientists don't usually get photos of far-off planets. They normally have to use math to find them. Space objects are in a constant dance with one another. The dance gives off a lot of energy, like gravitational energy and light energy. It's like this. Say your friend is hiding behind a corner. You can't see him, but you can see his shadow on the floor. It's kind of like what scientists do when they look out into the stars searching for planets. So, big deal, a planet vanished billions of miles from here. But what if our perfectly balanced solar system were to lose one of its planets? You better believe it would affect our lives. Mercury's up first. Good news, it's too small to have a gravitational effect on our planet, so we wouldn't even notice if it went missing. Next in line is Venus. This hot planet is sometimes called Earth's twin sister. It's completely uninhabited, of course. Other than that, Venus is one of the brightest spots in our night sky. Pull it out of the solar system and whoa, it's much darker at night. But still, not exactly a big deal. Mars. Life without Mars might even be good for the Earth. There's an asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Mars's gravity can grab an asteroid from the belt, spin it around, and catapult it toward us. Without Mars, the asteroids would stay in place thanks to Jupiter's gravity. Jupiter's heavier than all the planets in our solar system combined. It holds back the asteroid belt, and its gravity is actually strong enough to affect the Earth. A couple of thousand years after it disappears, we'd notice big changes. We'd move closer to the sun, which means a couple of things. 1, we'd have much hotter weather all year round, and 2, our days, weeks, and years would be shorter. Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune are all too far away for us to notice if they go missing. That just leaves one. No, not Pluto. What if the moon disappeared? Basically, chaos. The Earth would tilt even more than it already does, and the weather worldwide would go crazy, even crazier than now. It might even lead to a new ice age. The Earth would start spinning a lot faster, so instead of 24 hours in a day, we might have anywhere between 6 to 12. And even though nights would be a whole lot shorter, they'd also be darker than ever. When we see the moon, we're actually seeing the sun reflecting its light off the moon. And even a new moon is usually the brightest object in the night sky. If the sun were to disappear from our sky, it would be pretty much game over. This star is the center of our whole solar system. Without it, the orbits of all the planets would collapse, and we'd move around in complete chaos. The Earth, the Moon, and all the other neighboring planets would just shoot out into the universe, heading for, well, we just don't know. Daytime would be a thing of the past. We'd need the sun for that. So it would be nighttime forever. We'd probably never see the moon again. We'd probably never see anything again. The Earth would get colder and colder, and all the water on the planet would gradually freeze. But what if the sun turned into a black hole? We might still orbit around it. Hopefully, we're far enough away from it to stay safe. Mercury and Venus might be swallowed up, but we might get lucky. So we'd stay where we are, but we wouldn't have the sun to warm us. If it happened slowly enough, we might be able to adapt. We'd need a new power source, a new light source, and plants would have to adapt to get their energy from somewhere else. We'd probably need to build a huge tent-like thing over every city, forest, ocean, or we might just jump ship and move to another planet.
Recently, astronomers have made a stunning discovery involving an exoplanet, which is a planet outside the solar system called WASP-107b. Apparently, planets don't just come in an impressively wide range of sizes, but also in unusual, baffling shapes. But first things first, WASP-107b is a distant world about the size of Jupiter. But weirdly enough, it only has 1/10 of our gas giant's mass, which makes it much less dense than you would expect. But what really sets this planet apart from all the others we have discovered so far is its bizarre, lopsided atmosphere. Researchers used the James Webb Space Telescope and found an east-west asymmetry in the planet's atmosphere. To put it simply, one of its sides is more inflated than the other. Now, if there are no external gravitational forces, planets tend to take the form of a ball that can rotate freely. But if such a planet is placed next to a large object, then the gravity of this object stretches the planet and makes it look more like a pear. As a result, the rotation of the planet also slows down. So eventually, the planet is always turned to the large gravitating object with one and the same side. Just as this happens with Earth and the Moon always faces us with one side. The same effect could occur with Earth and the Sun, but fortunately the Sun is quite far from us, so Earth can rotate around its axis freely. WASP-107b is less fortunate. Its orbit around its star is almost 20 times smaller. Therefore, this effect is much stronger, which is why the planet is tidally locked with this star, located about 200 light-years away in the constellation Virgo. So it probably comes as no surprise that this side is constantly illuminated, while the other side is plunged in perpetual darkness. Aha, you may say. This tidally locked state is what can probably explain the asymmetry, but keep in mind that tidal locking isn't unique to WASP-107b, and no other planet reacts to it in such a weird way. That's why scientists are so eager to find out whether this atmospheric quirk might be something more unusual. So the team of astronomers from the University of Arizona, together with an international group of researchers, applied a technique called transmission spectroscopy to make their observations. Now, let me break it down for you. This method analyzes how starlight passes through the planet's atmosphere during a transit, which happens when the planet crosses in front of its star. That's similar to how the moon moves in front of the sun during a solar eclipse. So, the light passes through the gases in the atmosphere of a planet, and different gases interact with it in different ways. And this can be detected when you're examining the light spectrum. Anyway, this method allowed astronomers to figure out the differences in temperature and cloud patterns between the planet's eastern and western hemispheres. They have also concluded that one of the key factors contributing to WASP-107b's odd appearance might be its extremely low gravity and density. These properties cause its atmosphere to puff up much more than the atmospheres of other planets of a similar size or mass do. On the bright side, such an inflated atmosphere makes it easier for scientists to study the planet's unique features. But at the same time, it raises a few pretty intriguing questions. For example, how did such a lightweight gas giant form? And how did it evolve? Many exoplanets have been discovered since the existence of the first one was confirmed in 1992. More than 5,000 so far. And this is the first time such an asymmetry has been observed. It makes WASP-107b a super exciting and potentially unique object of study. These findings challenge existing models of exoplanet formation and atmospheric composition, and mark an important milestone in exoplanet research. Researchers continue exploring this misshaped, lopsided planet. They hope to find out more about its atmospheric dynamics and figure out whether this type of asymmetry might exist on other tidally locked gas giants. Once we understand why WASP-107b behaves this way, we might have new insights into the formation and evolution of planets, as well as the processes taking place in their atmospheres. In the near future, the ongoing study of exoplanets like WASP-107b, especially with the help of advanced tools like the James Webb Telescope, can help us reveal the diversity and complexity of planets in our galaxy.
Can a planet be bigger than its parent star? Well, if you mean a star like our Sun, it's highly unlikely. But what if it was a white dwarf, the remnant of a star similar to ours that went out after shedding its outer layers and leaving behind nothing but the core? This core is what we call a white dwarf. Usually, it's around the size of our home planet. If a star had a planet bigger than Earth before it extinguished, it's possible that such a planet could survive all the chaos. In this case, a planet that is bigger than its star might actually exist. And we've even found planetary systems like this. But there's one problem. A white dwarf isn't a real star like our Sun anymore. It doesn't produce energy, just sits out there getting cooler and cooler. So probably such systems don't count. For comparison, the Sun is working non-stop. It is fusing hydrogen into helium in its core. It has been doing it for more than 4 billion years and is going to keep doing it for the next 7 or 8 billion years. The Sun is 10 times as wide as the largest planet in our solar system, gas giant Jupiter. And sadly, you can't get a planet much larger than that. If you start adding mass to such a world, it will get smaller, not bigger. So it seems you can find a planet larger than the Sun. But there are also dim red dwarf stars. They're the smallest out there, barely massive enough to maintain fusion in their cores. The tiniest stars that we know about have been discovered recently. If astronomers' conclusions are correct, then both of them can hardly fuse hydrogen into helium. And it takes about 0.077 times the Sun's mass, or 75 masses of Jupiter, to be able to do that. And still, they're real stars, just very tiny, smaller than Jupiter. One of them is only about the size of Saturn, which must mean that stars can have planets bigger than they are, right? Well, theoretically. When it comes to practice, you can hardly find such planetary systems. We've found and observed quite a lot of exoplanets, which are worlds orbiting other stars. It seems that there are indeed loads of trends out there in space, different masses, sizes, brightness, and so on. But the main trend? Red dwarfs don't usually have gas giants orbiting them. If they do have planets, those are typically small, rocky worlds, more like Earth. Those are also called terrestrial planets. For example, a red dwarf called TRAPPIST-1 has 7 Earth-sized planets orbiting it. But gas giants circling around red dwarfs are extremely rare. Hardly 1 in 100 tiny stars can boast such a planet. This number can be even smaller since the research has been done using candidate planets which haven't been confirmed yet. Plus, the smallest stars are also the dimmest. It means they are extremely hard to detect, and it's incredibly hard to figure out whether they have planets orbiting them, and if they do, whether these planets are gas giants or terrestrial worlds. Still, it's possible that a system where the planet is larger than its parent star exists. But the probability is statistically very low. At the same time, red dwarf stars are very numerous. They're actually the most common kind of star in the galaxy, making up around 70% of all stars. And even though really tiny red dwarfs are relatively rare, there still must be millions or probably even billions of them in the galaxy. And if there's even a small fraction of red dwarfs with gas giants orbiting them, it might still mean that a lot of such systems exist in total, and some of them can have planets bigger than their host star. As we venture deeper into cosmic exploration, we encounter a plethora of exoplanets that defy our Earth-centric notions of what a planet should be like. From pitch-black gas giants to planets being torn apart by their own stars, these strange worlds offer a sobering glimpse into the extreme and varied conditions the universe harbors. In this overview, we delve into some of the most peculiar, hostile, and enigmatic planets known to humanity. Tres 2b. Located in a remote corner of the universe, Tres 2b is a world where darkness reigns supreme. Forget a sky filled with twinkling stars or even the barest sliver of a moon. Here, it's an abyss of darkness. This gas behemoth is 1.5 times more voluminous than Jupiter and possesses an uncanny ability to absorb light even more efficiently than charcoal. It's a place where photons go to die. Its atmosphere, torrid and choking, may occasionally display a dark ruby-red hue caused by air heated to temperatures similar to molten lava. It's a world that flips our understanding of night sky on its head. 55 Cancri E. Within the 55 Cancri system, a peculiar hellish world orbits its star in an uncomfortably tight dance. 55 Cancri E is subjected to such intense heat that half of its planetary face has become a seething ocean of molten lava. Picture an entire hemisphere ablaze, a burning sea without end. The other half is a perpetual desert of darkness, never touched by the light of its nearby sun. And between these two extremes lies a narrow band of perpetual dusk, where twilight lasts forever. The stark contrast between the burning and the desolate creates an eerie landscape of hopelessness. HD 189733b. At first glance, you'd think HD 189733b is an artist's impression of an alien ocean world. Its surface appears to be beautifully patterned with swirls of blue and white. But this beauty is deceiving. Those captivating patterns are the result of silicate particles in the planet's turbulent atmosphere, which conspire to create a storm of glass rain. That's right, glass shards falling from the sky, propelled by winds reaching speeds of 5,400 miles per hour. Anything and everything in its path would be ripped to shreds in moments. PSRB 1257 plus 12. Imagine a place where your very atoms are torn apart. That's what is happening to the planets in this system, thanks to their parent star, a pulsar. Pulsars are the remnants of exploded stars, and they release potent electromagnetic pulses. These energy bursts are gradually erasing the existence of the exoplanets in this doomed system, breaking them down at an atomic level. Their fate is to slowly dissipate into the cold void of space. Kepler 70b. Once upon a time, Kepler 70b might have resembled Jupiter, a gas giant enveloped in a thick atmosphere. But its parent star went through an explosive midlife crisis, expanding into a red giant and gobbling up Kepler 70b in the process. Now, this planet is a fiery rock with temperatures that exceed those on the surface of the sun. The extreme heat is causing the planet to evaporate. Its days are numbered. WASP-12b. Tragic might be the most fitting word for WASP-12b. Its massive parent star is pulling it into an oblong shape, reminiscent of an egg. As it spirals closer, the gravitational pull becomes even stronger, signaling an inevitable fatal attraction. In a cosmic time frame, WASP-12b is already on its deathbed. Gliese 436b. Imagine a world so contradictory that it boggles the mind. Gliese 436b is both scorching hot and eternally icy at the same time. Despite being hotter than an oven, its surface ice doesn't melt away. Instead, it burns continuously due to the planet's intense gravity, which keeps it solid. Venus, our neighboring planet, is another nightmarish world. With a hellish atmosphere, corrosive sulfuric acid rains, and surface temperatures that even outstrip those of Mercury, it is truly Earth's evil twin. Dimidium is another inhospitable planet, tidally locked to its star. One side is scorched to temperatures exceeding 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit, while ferocious winds of 600 miles per hour sweep the surface. This gas giant even experiences molten iron rain.
25 light-years away from Earth, in the constellation Lyra, there's a young star, Vega. The brightest and one of the most famous, This star is twice the mass of our Sun. Vega is so brilliant, you can see it even at twilight when all the other stars disappear from the sky. Despite all the star's fame, astronomers have never seen a single planet orbiting Vega until recently. Researchers have been observing the star for a decade or so when they spotted a curious signal. It might be Vega's first world we'll know about. If it did exist, it'd be a marvelous place. The planet would likely orbit so close to its host star that one day on it would last around 2.5 Earth days. The world would be the size of Neptune, and this ice giant is 4 times wider than Earth. Or it might even be as large as Jupiter. But the most impressive thing about this potential planet would be its temperature. The place could turn out to be the second hottest world known to scientists. On its surface, it'd be as hot as 5,400 degrees Fahrenheit. For comparison, the temperature on the surface of the hottest planet in the solar system, Venus, doesn't rise above 900 degrees Fahrenheit. The only place hotter than Vega's potential companion would be Kelt 9b. The temperatures on this exoplanet don't drop below 7,800 degrees Fahrenheit. Anyway, the candidate world would be closer to Vega than Mercury in our solar system is to the Sun. It could result in the giant planet puffing up like a balloon, and then even metals would melt in its scorching hot atmosphere. Unfortunately, the existence of the sizzling planet has yet to be confirmed. Astronomers think that the easiest way to prove it is by trying to spot the light emitted by the unusual planet. And since we're talking about planets, are there any worlds out there that resemble Earth? Astronomers have discovered and confirmed more than 4,000 exoplanets, but it's no secret that thousands of other candidates are still waiting for their turn to be detected. Of course, not all of these planets are like our Earth, but some are. For example, Gliese 667 cc. This world is only 22 light-years away from Earth. Scientists aren't sure if the planet is rocky, but they know the place is more than 4 times as massive as our planet. The star of Gliese 667 cc is a red dwarf. That's why it's much cooler than our Sun. So, the exoplanet is likely to be in its star's habitable zone. But this idea hasn't been confirmed yet. The Earth-like planet might be moving too close to the star. Then it can be regularly baked by its flames. Kepler 22b is much farther away than the previous world. If you wanted to reach that planet, you'd have to travel 600 light-years. This world, which is more than twice as large as the Earth, lies in the habitable zone of its host star. But it's unclear whether it's liquid, gaseous, or rocky. Kepler 69c is almost 70% bigger than our planet. It's also very, very far away, 2,700 light-years. It'd take you 54 million years to travel the distance that great in a modern spacecraft. Researchers aren't sure what Kepler 69c consists of, but they think it's likely to lie in the habitable zone. The planet's position in its solar system is like that of Venus and ours. But since the host star is only 80% as bright as the Sun, the planet shouldn't be affected by its heat that greatly. Kepler 452b is the most Earth-like planet astronomers have discovered so far. It resides 1,400 light-years away from our planet. Its host star is very similar to our Sun, and the planet, lying in its habitable zone, is 1.5 times the size of Earth. Scientists also think that Kepler 425b is likely to be a rocky world. Are any of these or other planets besides Earth suitable for life? There are 24 potentially super-habitable planets, and one of them met not one, but 2 criteria astronomers have for such worlds. KOI 5715.01 is 5.5 billion years old and around twice the size of Earth. It orbits an orange dwarf a bit less than 3,000 light-years away from our planet. Its surface temperature might be 4 degrees Fahrenheit cooler than that of Earth, but since the planet's atmosphere might have more heat-trapping gases, the place is likely to be super-habitable. Another potential super-habitable planet is KOI 5554.01. This world is a bit older than our planet, 6.5 billion years against our 4.5 billion. The exoplanet's size is likely to be the same as Earth's. The planet orbits its host star, a yellow dwarf, and the average temperature on its surface is 80 degrees Fahrenheit. What planets are visible from Earth? Mercury is the nearest to the Sun in our solar system, but since this planet is so close to the star, you can only see it just after sunrise, in the early morning, and at dusk. From up close, the place looks a bit like the good old moon. The planet doesn't have an atmosphere, and the temperatures on its surface are extreme. 800 degrees Fahrenheit during the day and minus 290 degrees Fahrenheit at night. Venus is the second brightest celestial object out there after the Moon. It's one of our planet's closest neighbors. Also, it's the most similar to Earth in terms of gravity, size, mass, and average density. Unfortunately, you won't be able to see Venus's surface from Earth. A thick layer of clouds is securely hiding the planet. Jupiter can be either the third or fourth brightest object in the sky. It depends on Mars, which occasionally shines brighter than the gas giant. You can see Jupiter especially well in the summer. The gas giant's most famous feature is the Great Red Spot. That's an enormous storm that has been raging on the planet's surface for centuries. Even though the largest planet in the solar system looks like a solid sphere, you wouldn't be able to land on its surface. Jupiter is mainly made up of gases, mostly helium and hydrogen. Saturn is the second largest planet in the solar system. It's the last one of the 5 planets you can see from Earth with the unaided eye. Saturn is incredibly far from Earth, but its unique rings help you instantly recognize this colossal planet. It's a pity that Saturn's trademark feature is only visible in a telescope. By the way, more than 700 Earths would fit into Saturn. At the same time, the gas giant's density is a mere 1/8 of Earth's. This is why Saturn's mass is just 95 times greater than that of our planet. What planets in the solar system are closer to each other than the rest? Astronomers believe that Mercury is the closest to any other planet in the solar system. And that's quite shocking because, how about Venus? It orbits the Sun between Mercury and Earth. Isn't it supposed to be closer to our planet? Venus is indeed rather close to Earth, but only for a very short period in its orbit. The rest of the time, Venus is much farther away. But Mercury's orbit doesn't let the planet move too far away from the Sun, and it's closer to Earth more than 50% of the time. The same principle works with other planets too. Even gas giant Neptune is farther from Uranus than from Mercury. Most of the time, the 2 larger planets are on the opposite sides of the solar system. Their orbits sometimes do bring them very close to each other, but it happens very rarely. And how about planets outside the solar system? Astronomers have recently discovered 2 worlds traveling around the same star. Their orbits are often so close to each other that each planet looks like a huge full moon from the surface of the other. It occurs every 97 Earth days. These planets are about 1,200 light years away from Earth. Their composition and size are different, but the distance between them is a mere 1.2 million miles. That's 5 times the distance between Earth and the Moon, and it's closer than any other planets astronomers know about. One of the newly found worlds is more than 4 times as massive as our Earth. It's likely to be rocky. The other is a gaseous planet the size of Neptune and almost 8 times as massive as our planet. Scientists haven't figured out yet how such dramatically different space bodies ended up in such similar orbits.